Dun, 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 dun. We so my wife and I we went to. It's kind of like another kind of birthday weekend for me because I had my birthday on Thanksgiving. So
Happy belated, by the way.
thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
I think
And
I said happy on Facebook, but I can't recall.
you did. And we went to we went to LA and we went to go pick up a cool banner for her shop. By the way, her shop's
Oh,
damaged.
cool. Was
Yeah.
it a custom one that you had made, or?
Yeah, she had a
Cool.
custom artist, and it's really cool, kind of throwback to Dungeons and Dragons, and also
Mm.
the art from like heavy metal and Frank Bakshi. I mean, is that
Oh God, yeah, yeah, you said it right,
Ralph
Bakshi.
Ralph
Ralph
Bakshi?
Bakshi.
Yeah, I don't know why
Yeah,
I say Frank Bakshi, but so yeah, it's really kind of this cool, huge, great banner. So it's
fucking awesome.
really badass. So we had to pick that up in L.A. It was deep in L.A. too. It was like an hour and 15 minutes for us to get there. But she's like, oh well, while we're here, let's go. Do you want to do anything? And I was like, yeah, let's go to the Grill-A-Mall, which is a heavy metal burger joint here, and let's go there, and then let's go watch a movie because the movie theater like right next door. And I was like, let's see if we can see Thanksgiving while we're here.
Cool. Yeah.
And we looked at the time. We're like, oh, the next movie starts at 1:20, and we were all across town. It's going to take us like 50. Well, we weren't all across town, but it was going to take us like 20 minutes to get there. And by the time we get there, we had a little wiggle room of like 15 minutes to get into the theater. And we got there and we got tickets and we went and saw Thanksgiving this weekend.
And that's the best when it's kind of a spur of the moment thing. And
Mm-hmm.
are we recording, by the way?
Yeah, we are.
Oh, excellent,
Yeah,
excellent.
for
Hey,
sure.
everybody.
Oh, hello, everyone. We're Cinematic Suffering. I'm Jason, and that's Clay.
I'm Clay. Happy belated Thanksgiving. Happy early Yuletide, Eustamus, whatever.
Happy Urintide. If you see, I did watch Blood Rage. Have you seen Blood Rage, by the way?
I have not. But I love the title.
It is a. I was about to say a Thursday film. It's a Thanksgiving film.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it takes place around Thanksgiving, but it's a totally weird. In fact, they have the title on Prime or in Shudder as Blood Rage, but when the titles come on the actual movie,
it's different.
Yeah, it says slasher.
That's my favorite trope of horror movies. And if I were a horror movie director, and you never know, there's enough life left in us to where maybe that's in our future. You know?
Yeah.
But if I were a horror movie director, I would do that intentionally. I would like have the title be different. Like, we've already made all the posters. Well, we're changing it because the marketing guy says this will play better in Paraguay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's such odd marketing things that just change the titles to these horror movies that over the years, I remember trying to even dissect. I think like James Rolfe, from Cinemassacre, did a whole dissection of the Dawn of the Dead, and then how those translated over into Italy and the world, and how they had their own Dawn of the Dead, but it was called Zombie. And I mean, it was just insanity. I'm off on a tangent, but yeah, Blood Rage is technically called slasher, but on Shudder it's called Blood Rage. But anyways, it's a fun, goofy 80s slasher flick that has a cool little twist to it.
Which is definitely in the spirit of what we're talking about tonight, which is and tangents are kind of our thing. So you're either with us or you hate us.
You're either with us or you're against us. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on that guy.
And absolutes are the way of the Sith.
Yes. So like I mentioned, I saw Thanksgiving. You saw it like a week before me, I think. Or a couple days.
We saw it, I believe, like a couple days after it premiered, because I was really stoked to see it. I was a huge, and as we both are, I was a huge fan of the Grindhouse movies. I saw the original Grindhouse movies in the theater.
Yeah.
The theater was damn near empty with the exception of the people that I had brought with me to see it. And I was just mesmerized. I felt like Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez had made a movie just for me. I even leaned over to my partner at the time and I said it was very nice of them to make a movie specifically for me. Like I've never felt that when that trailer Grindhouse came
Right.
across, peeled across the screen, and it was all distressed, and they had that great, you know, kind of iconic Robert Rodriguez music. I was like,
Yeah.
I was sold immediately. I was grinning like a fool, beginning to end and
Yeah.
in between. And a lot of great works have come out of Grindhouse from the fake trailers that buffeted both movies.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, most recently. Before that, Machete.
Yep. Forgot about that.
Yeah, Hobo with a Shotgun. That was another one that they made that was based off those fake trailers. So after all these years, horror fans finally got Thanksgiving the feature.
Yeah, and it's funny that, you know, how do you make that into, because it was such a killer trailer, and like you, I saw Grindhouse in the movie theaters, and it was a great experience because, you know, you don't get that experience anymore, or at least you haven't in a long time, where it's a double feature, it's buffeted by, you know, great Grindhouse trailers and horror and sci-fi, and it really spoke to me too. I loved it. I came out of
Yeah.
there just blown away. And yeah, Thanksgiving is the one that really stood out to me as far as the trailers went, because it was disgustingly eerie, and that deep voice was just like Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, you know, and it was just like it was very 70s grindy style. So when I heard that there might be a Thanksgiving movie, even back then, it was very exciting.
Yeah, and much in the same spirit of Grindhouse movies, the trailers are often, in some ways, more appealing than the feature.
That's
I
true.
love the movie, but
Yeah.
you know, fans were immediately critical. It was like, oh, it's too clean, it's too current, it's too contemporary. It doesn't
Yeah.
have film damage and cigarette burns in the corner of the film and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and you know, I have to admit, I even thought that too. I was like, oh, you know, it was a little too clean looking. But you know, it still captured the imagination of, boy, this shit is really weird. It's odd, and again, it's that Eli Roth odd timing of the characters speaking to each other, his weird editing choices that
Yeah.
makes it a very enjoyable film. Like you said though, I was expecting that grain film effect, that those cigarette burns, and you know the just that grindhouse effect. But even though I didn't get it, it was still very enjoyable. Is still a very enjoyable movie.
I loved it for the fact that there's such an absence of those kind of movies in the theaters right now. I mean, we're coming off the, you know, kind of the tail end of this writer's strike, and there's a whole lot of mixed feelings. I have a whole lot of mixed feelings about all of this stuff, you know,
Yeah,
especially, you know, as a creative. I don't work in the film industry, but you know, as a creative, you kind of feel invested in all this stuff. You
yeah,
know,
sure,
even if your paycheck doesn't
yeah,
reflect creative stuff week to week. Um, you know, so like I have some mixed feelings about this. I've got a lot of kind of like I grumble about Hollywood in a lot of the ways that a lot of the contemporary movie critics do too. So a movie like Thanksgiving kind of represents, you know, something special for me because you don't see a lot of movies like that. Like I saw the
right.
last, not the most recent Scream. They seem to bring those Scream movies out once a week, by the
It
way.
feels like it. Yeah,
Yeah, but I didn't see the most recent one, but I saw
mhm,
the previous one, and I was sitting there in the theater thinking, like, did I ever like these movies? You know,
right.
and Thanksgiving feels like the first Scream, like the first Scream movie I really enjoyed. Each one was just just a steep decline from that for
Yeah,
me, but I liked it. It was clean. It was slick. It was kind of like the dialogue was real poppy and kind of obviously meant to appeal to a younger audience. But I like that about it. You know, I thought that it worked. I thought that Eli Roth is kind of proving himself to be kind of a you know a hip enough filmmaker to where he can kind of plug into to that audience.
Yeah, and you know that, I haven't seen the latest Scream. I don't even remember Scream 3 and upwards, so but I know I love the first Scream, and yeah, that's what it kinda reminded me of too. In fact, I was telling, my wife that, in the theater that it was just like, this has like a very Scream like vibe about it. If
Yeah.
there were some parts that felt a little bit meta, but not too over the top where you're, blasted in the face with it or anything. But because I was thinking, because it's a very whodunit kind of thing, similar to
Yeah.
Scream. You don't know
Yeah.
who's killing. It's like the first Friday the 13th. You don't know who's doing the killing, and it,
Oh,
it
not to interrupt, but should we is this going to be spoilers or non-spoilers
I
for
think we
anybody?
we don't have to do spoilers. I don't think we have to do a breakdown and everything, but
I'm not going to try real hard to not spoil shit. So,
well, if there's spoilers, I'll put up a little sign before someone says something on the screen. If you're
all right,
listening,
I don't want to make too much editing work for you, but it just fair warning, folks. I can't promise I won't spoil shit. I'm not going to intentionally do it, but I
right?
might
Yeah,
because as you get excited about a movie, you want to talk about things that might kind of impact the big reveal. And this is a movie where the reveal is important. So I'm just kind of throwing a spoiler warning out there now.
okay. Well, let's just say it right now. This is going to have spoilers, and just listener beware if you haven't seen Thanksgiving just yet.
All right,
So
yeah, didn't mean to interrupt you, bro.
get that thrown out of the way there. Um, let's see what were we talking about. So I was talking about the who done it kind of thing, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
yeah.
I love those kind of movies. I love it when they throw the red herrings in there. I love it when
Love
you're
it too.
misdirected all this way by all these different characters saying, and I was questioning myself, oh, that's the killer, or
Yeah,
that's the killer. And then I was like, well, wait a minute, they're making it a little too obvious that that's the killer. Maybe it's this guy or we're here. And then I was thinking maybe it's a girl. And then I went back to the whole Scream thinking of maybe there's
two killers.
two killers or a conspiracy of killers going on here, which it wouldn't have upset me. It would have been a pleasant surprise. I mean, I know Scream is kind of like everyone's go-to when it comes to conspiracy of killers, collaborating with each other. Um,
Yeah, and all these little, kind of like you said, these red herrings that they throw up, and I watched several Eli Roth interviews because I really like Eli Roth as a creator. I've got really good memories of the first time that I saw Cabin Fever. That was,
mhm.
I mean, it just kind of came along at the right time for me. I
Right.
was there with people I enjoy going to movies with, and I love the movie. My girl and I both really like horror movies, and it was
Yeah.
one of those movies that we got on DVD, and we don't watch it obsessively, but there's a certain amount of time goes by and you want to revisit Cabin Fever. At least we do
Sure.
in our house. And I've watched all of the kind of the behind the scenes on extras on the DVDs that we've gotten throughout the years of Cabin Fever, and
Yeah.
I really like Eli Roth as a filmmaker. I think he's very down to earth. He's got such a genuine kind of earnest love for the art form. He's friggin' the guy writes some of the funniest shit. Like
Yeah.
I laugh out loud every time I watch Cabin Fever. Hostel almost kind of misrepresented itself because that was a
Yeah.
dark, dark, dark comedy. It was like I went in expecting something like guinea pig or
Right.
hot
Yeah.
or like
Martyrs or
yeah, what's that other Takashi Miki audition, like
Audition.
stuff,
Yeah.
yeah, stuff like that was obviously inspired. Hell, Takashi Miki was in the movies.
And that's a great point you bring up that about Roth is that people will think of like movies like Hostel. I don't they probably don't get that impression from maybe Cabin Fever, but especially Hostel and Hostel Part 2, where they think it's this torture porn, and there is torture, uh, and there's blood, but he doesn't show when you see it, it doesn't really reflect any kind of reality. It's just kind of like this altered, warped reality where
Yeah.
it's fake, it's obviously fake, and people are screaming and having a very bad time, but it's not. it's not something that makes you squirm. People thought that about the Saw films too, like well, at least the first Saw, where they thought, oh, that's torture porn. I'm not going to watch it. But really, when you watch the first Saw, it's very tame compared to its
Yeah.
predecessors and anything that came after it. So I think Roth gets some flack for that for the Hostel films. Um, I haven't
It's
seen too much other. It looks like he's done quite a few cool things. I have seen Green Inferno, which freaking ruled.
That was cool. It was cool. I appreciated that a lot more in hindsight than in the theater. I think that my expectation was unfair when I saw it in the
For
theater.
Inferno.
For Green Inferno, yeah. And it's what it's what I've grown to love about Eli Roth. And Thanksgiving was a wonderful movie. I really enjoyed it. It doesn't kind of rise to the heights of the first Hostel and to Cabin Fever for me. Somehow, like for me, Cabin Fever is quintessential Roth. That was kind of
Yeah.
like, I think that was the movie where there was like, he had nothing to lose. It was just
Right.
like, I'm a young, like ambitious filmmaker. Like no one's watching. I'm just going to make my movie. And it paid off. Like there was a story I remember in an interview that Eli Roth said where the movie was being screened and there was a bunch of movie executives in the theater.
Right.
And halfway through the movie, everybody left, and he was heartbroken. He was like, "Oh my God, this
Oh
sucks.
yeah.
Everybody's leaving." They were leaving because they were getting on the phone to say, "I want to buy this. I want to buy this. I want to buy
Oh
this." And like the reason that they were leaving is because it was starting a bidding war. They couldn't even get halfway through the movie
wow.
before they were like, I gotta have this. And he totally deserves it, man. His shit is that entertaining. And
Yeah.
it's like, I'm not trying to like, fan out on the guy, but it's like, if you, as a horror fan, if you go into an Eli Roth movie, you're probably going to get your ticket's worth and then some.
Right. And I think I don't quote me on this, but I think Roth has gotten some flack from the horror community about some of his movies, and I think some of that flack is unjustified. For me, I didn't really pay that much attention to him, to be honest. I did see Cabin Fever when it came out, and I didn't see it in theater, but I did rent it on DVD when it came out on DVD, and I wasn't blown away by it. I was not disturbed by it, even though it's great body horror for sure. But it was just an odd movie.
Yeah.
The weird townsfolk and the setting was just, and even the dialogue was just really weird. And I was like, this is a funny movie. I was laughing, but at the same time, I was horrified by some of the body horror that was going on. So I didn't really watch his career as he was progressing. I think I didn't see Hostel in the theater. I didn't see Hostel 2 in the theater. Probably the next thing I really saw in the theater of his was the Thanksgiving trailer when I went to see
Oh, okay.
Grindhouse.
Yeah.
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 It wasn't probably until shit, man. Until we really started doing work together on Cinematic Suffering, because we did that movie Aftershock that he wasn't a writer in, or he wasn't a writer on, as far as I know, but he was an actor in.
Yeah.
And
I think he might have been involved. Like he's involved in a lot more movies than he pens or he's a producer a lot. He's super affluent, but he's like it's I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I think he
right,
produces a lot. I think I get the feeling that he really pays it forward when it comes to young creators too. I think that somebody kind of helped him up, and then he's
yeah,
trying to pay that forward in a way. But yeah, Aftershock was one of those ones that was surprisingly fun in certain ways, and you could tell. I could tell the moments where Eli Roth was like, "No, do this, put this in there, put this in
yeah,
the movie," and it'll kind of keep the audience engaged, and that's something that he's good at. There was a lot of moments in Thanksgiving where a lesser director, I was like, well, I'm checking out, but he keeps involved. He keeps you involved in it. I mean, it keeps the momentum, and I think that his like twisted sense of humor is kind of a big catalyst for that.
yeah. And with Thanksgiving, there were scenes between the characters that were funny, and the dialogue was just so odd, and it felt like Roth, full on Roth. And then there were some editing choices that were made where, where the movies we've seen, like Veronica, for instance, where it kind of
Yeah.
lingers a little bit too long after the dialogue is ended, and on a certain scene, several scenes, and I was just like, and I just started busting out laughing. And Tina's like, "Oh, what are you laughing at?" I was like, "It's just these odd pauses that he has before it jumps to the next scene. It just reminds me of movies that Clay and I have sat down and watched." That,
Yeah,
but
it's
it
like
wasn't a bad. I'm not talking about that in a bad way. It totally works for Thanksgiving.
yeah, he's one of those directors that like kind of understands the mentality of the people that are like us, that are the ones that are uh, providing commentary on this stuff, because it's got to be tough for somebody like him, because the fan base is, God, I mean, like, like the movie fan base in general can be so vicious,
Yeah.
so just so overly critical that it's got to kind of play into that's got to weigh on you as a creator. I mean, like,
Oh yeah.
I can't imagine what it would be like to be like, okay, here's a bunch of money for this feature that we're giving you. Don't screw this up. It's like, okay, I mean,
I'll try my
now
best.
now with a movie like Thanksgiving, I haven't looked at how much it's made. Was the theater kind of empty when you saw it?
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of people in the theater. There,
Yeah.
it was like mostly just a couples. It looked like it was like me and another couple up in the higher seats, and another couple came in. Oh, that's a story I need to tell you about how what happened. A bunch of kids came in. They probably shouldn't have been in there, but they came in. They sat up at the back, and luckily they weren't too much trouble. They didn't make too much noise, but um, so we had already sat there. So right now I'm just gonna let you guys know spoilers about to come up. So if you haven't seen the movie,
Spoiler, spoiler,
spoilers.
spoiler.
So the whole Right Mart scene at the very beginning, where everyone's getting trounced and stomped on, and it's just a chaotic, awesome opening scene.
So good.
It's so good and over the top, and it seems like something that it harkens to Black Friday and how animalistic people are when it comes to getting something for free, or at least cheaper than what they usually get. But it's pretty brutal, and that's pretty much the catalyst for the killer going on his spree the next year around. But these people came in like 20 minutes into the film, so the Right Mart scene had already happened. They hadn't seen anything, and they sat up near the front, and it was this young woman and her and a guy. And so I was just kind of sitting there, and we were sitting there watching and enjoying the film. And then they get up. The girl gets up like abruptly, and Tina and I can see from our vantage point, and she gets up, and there's like two exits. They came in from the left side, but she was making a beeline for the outside exit, which was on the right side. And he gets up quickly and goes after her and chases her down. And he's like holding her like that. And she's shaking her head like, she can't take it. And he escorts her out the front entrance. And we were just looking at each other. This girl did not enjoy what was happening on the screen. Like I
I
said,
mean, like, which moment in the movie was it? Was it when Gina Gershon's character gets murked?
no, this is after this. So they didn't even see that part when Gina Gershon got killed. So this is probably when the stepmom is getting roasted.
Oh, she didn't care for that at
She
all.
didn't care for that at at all, and she was
That
like,
was a fucked up scene, man.
it was a fucked up scene.
Like, if
And
you're a pussy.
well, that was fun. I haven't seen anyone in a long time just get up and walk out of the movie, and that's what they did. And I was like, wow, it's not even that. I mean, it's a fucked up scene, but at the same time, it was like, it's not real, right?
Well, yeah, I'm not trying to backpedal or anything, but I will say that, like, the things that kind of fuck you off are, you can't control that. Like, if you
Yeah,
have a very, like, there's something very unpleasant about the idea of being in this claustrophobic environment that's incredibly increasing in heat, like
heat.
an
Yeah,
oven. It's just like, I think Eli Roth was pretty kind to the audience in the fact that it doesn't go on too long. I
Yeah.
thought that the buried alive scene in the second Kill Bill was harder for me to take.
Right.
That one kind of screwed with me a little bit more than this one. But I guess my point is that I don't blame her for being upset by
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
No, yeah, and I really don't either. I just wonder what people think when they say when they come in not only 20 minutes late, but 20 minutes late to a horror film from, a pretty famous director that's gets, is known for horror and gore and but that's no neither here or there. That to go back to that
Well,
scene though.
that scene was late in the movie, though. I mean, that
Yeah.
scene was like in the third act, though.
Yeah, it was in the third act, and they were there for the second act, and
Yeah.
then maybe a little bit of the last or the first part of the third act. But yeah, that scene, I was, T and me were my wife and I were talking to each other about it afterwards, saying that scene had me so uncomfortable because I could just imagine what it would be like to be stuck in an oven, and then that heat just getting turned up, and
Oh God, it was like, yeah,
yeah,
just getting like, I mean, it was. I think that he like intentionally ended. Like, there's so many. Like, I'm trying to not fan out on Eli Roth. I mean, it's like, because I can't stand that kind of shit. Like that, the film wasn't perfect, but like there's so many things that as a horror fan and that I appreciate from him as a creator. Like he doesn't like he knows that like if it goes on too long, it's going to be oppressive to the audience. If it doesn't go on long enough and if it's not savage enough, then it's not kind of it's not appealing to my fan base. It's
yeah,
not
it's not
appealing to the
impactful to
people that yeah. So it's
yeah.
like it was kind of like as soon as you're starting to get kind of cringy about it, it cuts away.
Yeah.
And that's the way I kind of looked at it.
No, that's exactly it. And that was like a very memorable scene. And of course,
It was a
that's
savage one.
that's who gets trussed up like the Thanksgiving Day turkey and put on the table for everyone to devour. So
And it was the great thing about it was like all the fans of the original trailer, they have been hounding him for years, like literally 17 years to make this. I can't believe it's been that long. It
all
makes you
right.
feel old to say the numbers out loud. For like 16, 17 years, they've been bugging him to make this movie.
Yeah.
And then he did. And it was kind of like the lead up to that was pretty impactful because you get to know the character and she's a shit character. But
Jessica. Oh no,
yeah,
no, the stepmom.
the stepmom,
The
yeah,
stepmom,
like
yeah.
she's just a shitty character. But when that happens, you're still like, oh god damn, that she didn't deserve that. Like
Yeah.
yeah, we're kind of all over the place here, but it's our podcast, so
Well, going back to the spoiler territory, I just found the motivations for so the motivations for the killer were like extremely over the top. It's like, wow,
it was yeah, it
this
was
drove you to start murdering people a year later.
well, and the thing is, like when in typical kind of like slasher horror movies, kind of like style, the killer tells all the victims why he was or they were
Yeah.
prompted to do this, and you're thinking like, okay, I understand your motivation to be angry, but the kind of acts that he carries out in this movie would be the kind of shit that even Jeffrey Dahmer would be like, "Are you sure this is a little?"
Do you want to go this far with it?
Yeah,
And
right.
uh,
Like what? Like you understand his motivation for revenge, but you start to question, like, okay, like, well, why did you kill this character in this
yeah,
savage of a way? Like, she didn't do anything, and why did you stab like the corn holders into this person's ears? They didn't really do anything. Like, there's like none of it really makes sense, but.
yeah,
Okay.
I don't know. I was trying to figure that out myself. I mean, to me, it felt like he's disposing of it started disposing of the characters that you probably didn't like that much. But then again, the dad wasn't killed, uh, and he was kind of a dick. But yeah, it was just weird some of the motivations. I mean, but I didn't really sit down and think about it too much. I did think there was a conspiracy of killers, because there's a point when in the Thanksgiving parade where some dude just is in a turkey costume going, hey, look at me, and then smoke. The killer throws a bunch of smoke into the crowd, so everyone gets confused, and he just whacks this guy's head off while it's still in the turkey costume. But I swear, and this is a super spoiler what's going to happen right now, guys. Super spoiler. So if you don't want to know who the killer is, I'm about to say who it is.
Yeah, tough shit. If at this point, tough. This is on you. We warned you.
Okay, so the sheriff, I thought the sheriff came running up to the kids to tell them to get into the vehicle, and then all of a sudden he gets shot with a dart gun that's loaded with a tranquilizer dart.
Yeah.
And then I kept thinking, the whole time I was like, oh well, maybe it is a conspiracy. But I think that was the deputy who was telling them to get into that vehicle, right?
I'm having trouble recalling. I remember that the sheriff was there. I mean, I'm sure that they kind of had all that, tied up with a bow, but it was like if you rewatched it, it would kind of make sense because it need to stand up to a rewatch. But so they ask a lot of the audience in that way. Like, certain people would have to get in and out of costume really quickly for that to
that's
work.
what I was asking, because the killer was dressed up as a clown, and he had he had a tranquilizer gun with him, and so it was either the deputy or the sheriff that was trying to usher the kids. I guess it was the deputy, but for some reason I kept thinking it was the sheriff, and it was the deputy or the sheriff gets shot. And I thought it was the sheriff who got shot with the deputy with the tranquilizer gun, and he passes out. And then the killer gets in the vehicle and just tranks all the kids and goes. and then when it turned out to be, because then I was like, because up at that point I was already suspecting the sheriff, because all these other were already turned out to be kind of red herrings. I felt like they were a little obvious. I was like, no, they're just too obvious. And then at this point I was expecting. Then when that happened, I was like, well, maybe it's not. And then when the sheriff revealed himself at the end, then I was like, well, wait a minute, who shot the sheriff, as a once famous singer once said. But maybe, like I said, maybe I'm just misremembering who was actually ushering the kids. Maybe it was the new deputy that was there, and he's the one that got shot.
It was a great moment in the movie because the setup was the Thanksgiving Day parade is where we know that the killer is probably going to strike. So let's be prepared. And the killer strikes and they're woefully unprepared, and it was this great moment in it. Like, okay, we know he's going to strike. We didn't know that he was going to come with a cachet of military grade weapons. And like, where did you get this shit? It was like, it did a good job of playing with your expectations, with keeping you entertained and keeping you in the moment. Another thing I love about these kind of movies, and this one in particular, is it knows that you can't like outstay your welcome. It's kind of like somebody with this much personality can't stay at the party too long. You got to come in, entertain everybody, and go to the next party to allegedly do cocaine, because that's the kind of manic mentality that these movies have. And and it did that. Like, the runtime was nice and lean, and it got to the end, it left a big cliffhanger. You
got to have that cliffhanger. You got to have it.
Yeah, you do. And it's like, and you got to have a cliffhanger where the killer may or may not be horrifically burned to a crisp. That was just, like, it was, I really enjoyed it. It was great. It didn't, honestly, I was thinking about this analogy today. The kind of the way I view Thanksgiving is like a brand new a black metal band that doesn't try to reinvent the genre in any way, but gives you everything that you like. Maybe gives you a couple cute twists here and there that you're not expecting, but also knows that it needs to give you what you came to black metal to hear. In this point, see, there's there's one scene that I want to kind of talk about real quick with the cat. I loved everybody loves the cat scene.
Yes.
Yeah, the cat scene was real good. I like, I'm not even worried about spoilers at this point, but like Eli Roth has said that people love the cat scene, and I love the cat scene. And basically, you'll see the movie. You've probably seen it already. The cat scene kind of encapsulates the director's love for animals, love for horror, and
Yeah.
loves for subverting your expectation for what's going to happen to the cat in a
Yeah.
horror movie. And it was a great scene.
No, it was a great scene. I guess if anything, we won't spoil that one, but that just remember that. I remember my wife and I just cheering on that. We're just like, yes, like
Yes, it was
this is
so great. Well, and the whole lead up to it, because the lead up was like the killer's in the house, and the guy that's about to get killed, who's Tim Dillon, who's a fantastic comedian who I love,
yeah.
was like, "Hey, boy, where is he?" And the cat's like, the cat like points his head this way, and the killer's behind him.
The killer's behind him. It was amazing. That was one of the funniest things. In fact, yeah, we were, because my wife and I are prone to, especially when they're over the top, just killing and everything that's going on. We laugh out loud. We're not
Yeah.
frightened or scared. We just like laugh and clap, going yes, And
Yes, yeah.
there's some people in the theater that may not like that, and they look at us weird when we just like cheer at a cool kill. But that's how we are. But that was especially really funny, that scene. And Tim Dillon's because he plays a security guard at the very beginning with Right Mart, and
he was hilarious throughout.
He was hilarious. He was just like, "Oh, what do you need out there?" He goes, "Give me a fire hose or something." And
give me a fucking fire in that horrible Bostonian accent. No offense, Bostonians.
Did Tim? Did he play the father of in Scary Movie, the first Scary Movie?
No, that was
okay.
I know who you're thinking of, but that wasn't him.
Oh, okay. I thought it was, but yeah,
and then possibly gay fat dude.
I just remember one, and again, I bring my wife up because she was howling with laughter when it happened. Was at the very end, the big explosion, and you hear the killer yell, "Jessica!" And she was howling. She couldn't stop laughing, and we were on a drive back home, and she was just erupt into laughter. She's just like, "Jessica!"
Well, I mean, like what tickled her so much about it?
Just the way an explosion. There was a big explosion, at the very end, and you see the killer just flying forward like this, and that's that. And then there's like an ADR of him yelling the victim's name that he wanted to kill, Jessica. And I don't know, she found it to be hilarious. She was in tears, and I had to think back to other weird last lines like that. I think of like Attack of the Clones, or no.
No.
Yeah, Vader's famous no, and how I just burst out laughing in the theater too at that. So maybe I think that's where she was coming from, but amazing.
Well, I mean, it was a good time. We've been kind of, praising the movie for upwards of 30 minutes. So if you haven't seen it, you should. If you have,
yeah, if you haven't seen it, then you've already heard some of the cooler plot points, but there's still a lot of good stuff we left out. So, I mean, the cat scene is one, and plenty other cool kills.
I mean, yeah, just an abundance of good kills. Some really funny, snappy dialogue. It's definitely a worthwhile slasher movie. We haven't even got into the tangential topic of other slasher movies that we love that probably inspired this one.
Oh yeah, but Thanksgiving is not going to be lauded as reinventing the wheel or anything, but like you said before, it's going to give you what you came there for, and that's all you can ask from it. So,
yeah, definitely. And we can save this for another time, but Eli Roth directed the upcoming Borderlands movie, which I'm curious about. So.
Okay, yeah, I was just looking up on his IMDb. There's several I haven't seen that he's directed, because I'm looking specifically for movies that he's directed, not that he's been a producer on per se. Or
Knock Knock, which wasn't a horror movie, but which was insanely entertaining to me.
Okay,
there's Knock Knock. Yeah, like he did, like it, you talked about this weird otherworldly quality, and I got that out of Knock Knock too.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I see Finn.
I haven't seen that one. I'm not terribly interested in that one, but I'll watch it if maybe if I can some
Yeah.
point,
Yeah, I'm
just to
curious
be a
about that.
completist.
I may go on Eli Roth completionist directors, just the stuff that he's directed, not anything that he's acted or produced or anything.
Well,
But
because
really,
you'd spend the rest of your life seeking out
yeah,
everything that his name is on.
sure. But some of these look really interesting, so I'm pretty interested in seeing what's
Yeah,
going on.
yeah. He did Death Wish. We both haven't seen that one.
That's true. Yeah, we did a Hemlock. Oh, we did an episode of a couple of TV series too. Okay,
If it was Hemlock Grove, we watched that one. That was a good series.
okay, I have to check that out too. All right. Well, I guess that's about it for Thanksgiving and just talking in general about Eli Roth. That was fun.
Yeah, and horror movie. Yeah, it was fun.
It's
Hope you
definitely
all had
inspired.
fun
Yeah,
too.
it's definitely inspired me to check out the rest of those films and the filmography that he has. So I will definitely get started on that.
Yeah, and if you've stuck with us, we appreciate it. Please click the like button if you haven't already. Click the down like button either. I don't care.
Leave a comment.
I don't like
Yeah.
you either.
And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcasting platform, please leave us a 5-star review. And yeah, that'd be nice. Thank you.
Yes, thanks in advance for that 5-star review that you're leaving us right now.
Right now, do it. We're not going to go away until you do it. So
live, eat, consume.
We'll just wait.
Just waiting for you to do that. Do that now. Thank you.
Waiting. Okay, that's enough time. Hey guys, I'm Jason.
I'm Clay.
And this is Cinematic Suffering. Thanks for joining us, guys. Bye.
Peace.